What's up, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of Live With. Today, we are sitting down with Lorenzo Gaggiotti and Alex Chin to talk about the Oddfellows playing cards currently live on Kickstarter. For anyone who actually has not checked out the Oddfellows yet, I don't know how you
What's
missed
wrong
it,
with your life?
but the link is down in the description below, so make sure to click on that and check out this campaign because this thing is blowing up right now. Guys, it is so good to have you on the show. I am so excited to hear all about the stuff behind it. We ready to jump into it today?
We are.
Yeah,
Let's
I
do
think
it.
so. Thank
Yes,
you
we
for having
are.
us.
Dude,
Thanks, man.
No, our pleasure. Let's jump into it here. So I gotta say, first and foremost, every time we have both of you on this show individually, we always have such a blast. So I'm like super excited about this episode because I feel like it's just gonna be absolute overload of fun. So
No pressure.
Gonna be
No
it's gonna
pressure
be an
at
odd
all.
episode.
and I mean that in the most organic way. You guys by nature are some of the friendliest, funniest guys I know. So I'm really excited for this. Think about it. Last time we had Lorenzo on, he was the one who came up completely with the idea of getting in costume and getting on here. And Steve and I are like, oh man, that's amazing. Let's make this happen. So I have no doubt that this is going to be really interesting, especially just because we're talking about this Oddfellows deck, man. This thing is next level. First off, the artwork is out of this world. No surprise there, but the whole
Pretty odd.
theme behind it, yeah, I mean, the theme behind it is just out of the ordinary. How did you guys kind of come up with this idea of the Oddfellows deck?
I start. Yeah. Okay. Actually, so if you remember, it all started with the idea that it was supposed to be the deck for the United Cardists
Yeah.
community, which is a forum basically. And I've been there. I mean, I used to exchange ideas, ask for feedback, read all the comments, and but forums are so 90s that they're so hard to read that they get the response like quoted, quote, under quote, triple quote. It never ends. It goes sideways. I mean, visually, it is stressing me out a lot. So, but
I'm with you on that one too, buddy.
So the idea of I noticed that the people on the forum, it is so different from each other, even if they follow the same passion in a different way. And everybody has its own ideas, and but they share the same passion of playing cards. And then so basically I thought, oh, they are they're fellows. They are all together in this thing, on this boat. And then when I thought that this name being Fellows, I thought of the movie. It was Goodfellows, right? Is that a movie,
Nice.
correct?
Yep.
Yeah, Goodfellas. Yeah, good movie.
Yeah, and then they're not good at all. Yeah, I mean, they're good, but they
Yeah.
They're not good at all.
Just kidding.
I mean, it depends on your opinion of what good is, right?
They're special. Like everybody has its own edge. There is somebody who's a little bit more passionate. The other one is like a moderator, take it easy. The other one is raging out. I know it's so heterogeneous. You say that different,
Yeah.
and I thought that it could be a metaphor, like it's like a circus, more or less.
Nice.
So, like carnival style. And I thought that they are a little bit strange, weird, in a good way. And then I didn't want to use Weird Fellows because it didn't sound. And then I found a synonym. And I thought that odd was good.
Nice.
And that's how it became Odd Fellows. And the art came later with this concept. Then Portfolio52 acquired United Cardists, and so it stays Oddfellows from Portfolio52 instead of United Cardists. So that was just a little change. And so now there are 3 characters on the decks, and they are quite odd. They belong to each one to a world of its own. So the monkey is like more from the jungle and it's crazy. The Uncle Tibia is from the graveyards. The death is kind of world, and then and Sir Octo is from the depths of the ocean. So 3 different characters from 3 different worlds, and they have their own style in the oddity. And then I thought, what if those characters, they have their own like concoction, how do you say that?
Concoctions, concoctions.
Yeah, that thing. Okay, like a mixture or like a blend of something to drink, but it works only in their world. Because if you try Sir Octo's blend, of course you will die. But that's the fun part, because it works only for them, and it's like sponsoring their own spirit. So, and that's how the tack box is designed. It looks like a label from a whiskey or a gin or a cognac, some drink, alcoholic drink. And that's it. Long story short, that's it.
Not that. I think that was a perfectly appropriate story, though, too, for the whole idea behind this. I mean, this really is a unique deck, and I think you've brought a lot of unique characteristics, not only to the characters themselves, but the deck itself. I mean, this thing has beautiful die cut in it. There's so much detail and foil. What really made you decide to go in a different direction with the idea of die cut on the tuck?
I wanted to make things a little bit different and not to use the exact copy of the back design. And I thought, let's put a big face of the character. And then I had to work a little bit with the production limitations, because I cannot make, sorry, this is the tuck, okay? Typically a little bit out of focus, okay?
Yeah.
Those cuts can't be too small.
Right.
Because otherwise the machine, I mean, the die line making the machine doesn't really make it. Also, that all those colored areas are foil.
I see.
And so I had to work with 2 colors and the background color of the paper. So it's also a little bit difficult, because when you have 3 colors only in your palette, it's a bit complicated. So you have to be careful with the contrast.
C-Dub loves your grandfather clock, Alex.
It's actually a grandmother clock, but
there you go.
Yeah, no, apparently the difference is the size of a clock.
Interesting.
And so my wife's grandfather did build it, but it is technically a grandmother clock.
So it's a grandfather built grandmother clock.
Yes. Yeah.
Nice. All right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's so cool seeing the die cut differences in the 3 decks, you know?
Yeah, it's a really smart idea as a way to introduce color to the outside packaging without having to pay for all those extra runs.
Yeah.
I think when we were producing these boxes, Lorenzo pulled the same paper line that we've sort of seen in some other decks, like most notably like the Escher deck of the National Playing Card, and I think that's 2018. And we were trying to get that to Expert Factory. And so I have a rep that works for Nina Paper, and I was like talking with her, and it's like, hey, can we do this and this and this? But at the end of the day, international shipping is a nightmare right now.
Yep.
And then I pitched it to Bill, and Bill's just like, yeah, you know what? Like, we can find this pearlized paper. We had a few back and forths, but I ended up finding something that Lorenzo was looking for with these guys. And I think with the white foil on top and just like your spot foil, it really hits the gambit of what we needed it to be, and a relatively simple procedure. And so I'm pretty thrilled with what we were able to do with the constraints that we had.
Yeah,
Nice.
I mean, I think it's awesome. It's so dope. Now, if you guys had to choose which one was your favorite, which one
think
would you choose?
I choose the brass monkey.
Brass
Nice.
I
monkey.
like, yes. It's,
So it's really funny. I personally like the Sir Octo, but I was playing around with this the other day. I don't think I've ever shown Lorenzo this. It'd be really cute. So originally when I was figuring out how to promote this, I hired an animator to try to get these like little faces to like talk to like in the post, and it's just like it looked a little gimmicky, a little glitchy, and it's just like let's just have really solid photography and that work. But I really like if this would be a character.
Yeah.
And so it's if you stack the decks together, they create a little face of him looking
Cool.
back and forth, which is really cute.
That's
That's
cool.
That could be our zombie fellow.
There you go.
Coming
Right.
soon.
Dead fellow.
Yeah.
And so now, for anyone who doesn't know Alex, Alex is the genius behind not only Seasons Playing Cards, but also Portfolio 52. And Lorenzo, you mentioned that this kind of started as the annual deck for the United Cardist deck. Now, Alex, what was it like for you to kind of step into this project after there was already a little bit of a momentum behind it? Did you really bring anything to it where you wanted to change the direction, or did you step in and say, oh, wow, this is awesome?
I think there's a balance to it because I have to be wearing multiple hats. And as someone that is running Portfolio 52 and this acquisition, there's a lot of like, let's not step on any coattails, let's not rebrand UC yet, and all these things just to make sure everyone's on the same page, acknowledges the acquisition, all that. But for as an artist, the idea of having a project that you've like invested into, I really didn't want to be just jumping in and being like, hey, change this. So I sort of let Lorenzo have pretty much full reign of what he wanted to do. And
Nice.
if he needed to ask anything in terms of design wise of like, what do you think in terms of mostly language, I would chime in or from production standpoints. But in general, this is pretty faithful to Lorenzo's initial design. I think the biggest contribution was literally Sir Octo himself.
Nice.
He was not a normal thing. And then when we start talking, and it wasn't just a normal Kickstarter, it's like, oh, well, we have two minds together. Let's sort of figure out what we can do. Then all of a sudden, this ball started to roll, and it's like, okay, well, like maybe we make this a big campaign. Maybe this isn't just a one-off. Like, hey, here's 2 decks, one and done. It was like, okay, this can actually scale. I think right now what we're seeing in the card world is that, I think what's really refreshing about Lorenzo's Oddfellows artwork is that it steps away a little bit from that heavy-handed luxury, the rarest cards, luxury cards, one, and like, and so this is just like a really fun deck. But I think there's also the fact that it's sort of, the term I use is entourage deck. And so I think we're going to start seeing more of that because one, when you almost personify a deck as a character, I did that with the National Playing Card last year where each one's a different spirit. But having that sort of ability to put emotion and especially when you're doing marketing, the copy of having these characters almost start to evolve into a story, especially with even like something as small as updates, people really respond well to that. Yeah. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we started seeing these character scenes come out more and more in future decks.
I would like to mention Scott Matthews, who helped me with the ingredients with a rhyme that if you want, you can read it because my English will fail. And they have written here, it describes basically the content of the blend.
So on the skeleton one, we have notorious blend of spiced bones brewed with Victorian tombstones. We have a mangled monkey melon stew of primate pudding with grapes and glue. I do love the rhyming aspect to it. A
was great.
slimy sludge with a sage smoked smudge. A bilgewater boil of black ink and oil. So dope. I mean,
Yeah,
and
and I was really, I mean, I was happy to get help because the language barrier for me is like quite big. I mean, I can speak with you guys, but at that level, it's like of limits for me.
Yeah.
So also Alex has helped me out with the text and better explanation written, and for the presentation it also helps a lot because
Nice.
I'm more like visual. Arrow, click here.
oh my
That's
god, I
all.
love it.
It's always
No,
good
I
to
think-
bring on people, you know, that are, you know, can add to any project, whether it's copy, you know, visual, or, you know, regardless of what it is.
Yeah, this campaign, I'm not gonna lie, it's still a ungodly amount of work, but I think both Lorenzo and I have been around enough and know sort of, you know, what to expect and the processes that when we communicate, it's just like, okay, we need these graphics here. I need to be doing this marketing here. Have you followed up with this person that's going to be doing a whatever here? And it's just, I think I remember my first Kickstarter running it. It was just like, you feel like a chicken with your head cut off. And this project, admittedly, I didn't really expect to like have, and we're doing it and it's running very well and no one's head is cut off. So
I mean, between the two of you, I think you're
yeah.
both very detail-oriented people, especially with that planning aspect. Like, I've only heard great things of how Lorenzo runs a campaign. Alex, having worked with you on a lot of things in the past, I'm not surprised that you both fit very well in that kind of that same vein of detail orientation, planned out steps, and really understanding the world you need to operate in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
We have come like 10 years almost. No, not 10, but I mean, I run 12, 13 campaigns so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then over the years, I understood something more and how people work on these kind of platforms. And yeah, and they want to see images and they don't want to read anything.
Yeah, that's true.
That is very true. It is very true. And it's funny though too, because we talk about this a lot too. It's nowadays though, you still have this mentality of it's still very visual, but because people are switching more and more to mobile, there's this propensity to just infinitely scroll. And so you need to have things that jump out so people don't just flip from top to bottom of your campaign in
No.
15 seconds. So it's like, how do you convey that detail while at the same time not boring them? It's a fine line to walk.
Yeah, I think when we were creating this, I remember we were just sort of mapping everything out, and it looked like it was just like, okay, you have your 2-pack, your early bird, your eventually we'll have a 3-pack and all this. And I was just like, I'm looking at it, and it's just like, we need like a really big tier. And I was telling Lorenzo, I was just like, we need something that like people feel good about being in for like the hardcore collectors.
Yeah.
That you just sort of like set it and forget it kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's sort of when we started developing the Oddest Fellow. And we still had to play around and make sure, especially in these evolving type of campaigns where all the variables are dynamic, you're like going back and double checking and making sure it's just like, and I remember Lorenzo very specifically saying, it's like, okay, we need to make sure that for like in these tiers, make sure the add-ons equivocate the same. Otherwise, people are going to try doing all these bypass loop arounds. And it's just like, so there's a lot of due diligence that's necessary in these kind of campaigns that if you want to make exciting, it really does need to be dynamic. And if you're making something dynamic, you need to make sure that the numbers work out.
Yeah.
But,
Sure.
yeah, Lorenzo, he sort of sent me over, I think on Messenger, just like hey, what do you think of this graphic? And it's like, just to sort of like build anticipation. I was like, well, that's sort of like a progress bar. What if we sort of turned it into like a thermometer, like an odometer? And then And then that sort of became our ongoing graphic that evolves with every update that you can see. I think right now we're on getting otter, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
Lorenzo?
Yeah. We are
There you go.
halfway, basically. We released the odd box 9.
Yeah.
And now on Thursday, we have, tomorrow, we have something else, right? Yeah,
I would like to push it tomorrow.
mhm. And then we have,
You heard it
I
there
mean,
first,
I'm the
folks.
one doing all the
Wednesday,
work.
something's
To
coming.
be very clear, Lorenzo's sitting pretty. I'm the one running all the
to-do
campaigns.
list.
I love it.
But
I love
yeah.
it.
And
so
I
now-
will say also, let me say a thing about the Oldest Fellow reward here. It also a way to say to those backers that they don't want to have the feeling of missing things, and they want to feel comfortable that I'm sitting in that reward, and I'm not gonna miss anything.
Yeah.
So they can, if they want, just come back at the end to check like the surprise. Hopefully they do that, because they have to take a little bit of responsibility and see what they're paying for otherwise. And so that's because I'm a backer myself, and I understand that not everybody has time to read all the updates, all the instructions. Also, Kickstarter is a platform that is very unflexible.
Yeah.
It's not like an online shop. It's not in your cart. It's like add-on, then changes, then the add-on doesn't work. There is a glitch. It works on mobile. The app is a disaster. You have to go on PC. And
yeah, that was a really, really long night. That when that came out, I was like, yeah, but
it's definitely a disaster. It's funny because I was getting ready to like back everything and it didn't work, and I'm just like, you know what? I see the oddest fellow there. I'm not even gonna worry about it now. I'll just do it later.
Kickstarter, I give credit to Kickstarter for really trying to make it easier for backers to back things and trying to come up with this new innovation finally. But whoever's doing their pre-release testing definitely needs a little bit of help there for sure. So
I think a lot of the issues is that it is by design what we are sort of critiquing.
Yeah.
They've been sort of positioning themselves away from these larger campaigns. They know the larger campaigns will still be here, but it's made for people that are sort of batting in the 1,000 to 25,000 range of like, hey, this is our first time, it's our first project, and I'm sure they spent a buttload of Silicon Valley money to be like, how many options can we give them before they give up? And I think by design, it's very simple. And for people like us that are trying to sort of hack it, sometimes it gets a little glitchy. But just take it in stride and continue on. So
yeah.
And so
it's good that they are updating stuff. Like that the add-on feature just came in 6 months ago? Yeah, well, maybe 8 months ago.
About 8 months ago now, yeah.
More than a year, I guess.
Yeah, it was right before we did our campaign.
They were doing that mostly because they were losing out on so much money to BackerKit.
BackerKit, yeah. And I'm surprised BackerKit still exists with like that.
The post management, yeah.
BackerKit bought out CrowdOx, I believe, or they merged, which is just another one. So they're twice the size now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be worried about them going anywhere.
Yeah, that post-campaign pledge management that they have allows a nice, easy platform as well for, the pre-order style of it. So that's where they're going to still continue to thrive, even if add-ons are not their thing anymore.
Yeah, correct.
So one of the cool things I think about this campaign too is the odd aspect of the brick box you have here. So you actually don't have a traditional brick box in this campaign. You have
the 9-deck box.
Well, so
look, let me show you what I had to do to design this thing because it's funny.
All right.
So I had to cannibalize a Raven 4.
Oh my God, that is funny.
Okay, and I had to cut the lid and do the test because I always work with mock-ups. So I can check how it goes. So this is 3 decks and they fit here quite okay. No, this is just a mock-up and you see there is. You see how it works.
Oh, good.
I love it. I love it.
basically this is a sorry.
Duct tape.
There is a lot of tape everywhere.
Yeah.
And then I thought that instead of, I was thinking that let's do a 3-lead box, each one with representing its own character. So you can lift one, see the graphics inside, and then it's supposed to be a ribbon here. So to lift and pick a deck.
Nice.
So this is the father,
Nice.
flimsy father of the Oddbox 9. To check also if it's doable, because it's not that we pull it out like this without testing at expert playing card. We had to wait their approval as well, because
Yeah, that was a little bit of a tight nail biter, because we had it and we were sort of waiting around to make sure that it'd come in, just due diligence sake. We had pretty much everything else sort of set and ready to go, and I remember it's just like it's coming. We just keep on pushing the expected, like, let's launch this day, and it's just like, okay, all right, you know what? Let's just launch on National Playing Card Day. It'll be something like that, and then let's just hope to God that we get the quote in time. And he ended up getting us the quote within the first week of the campaign, and we just sort of adjusted around that.
Nice.
But it's a really, really fun box. I think Lorenzo was pretty animate about, like, this is the odd box. The numbers have to be odd. It can't be even. Can't be 12. It's odd.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I agree with that one. That makes a ton of
We-
sense.
So
We forgot to
originally
put
it was our. Oh, go ahead.
no, I'm just saying that we forgot to put the picture with the explanation that we have magnets here. Okay, it's not like
Nice.
I
slapping
put it in
around.
the description.
No, okay,
But
no,
we can emphasize that later.
just
I personally, I made the
odd.
assumption too that there would be magnets there.
Yeah.
It just kind of makes sense that there would be magnets, and or either that, or if it doesn't look like it's sliding into it, I'm sure there has to be some securing mechanism. So magnets makes the most sense. But
Griffin's like 13 decks is pretty odd.
oh my
I mean,
gosh.
on the bright side, it's Oddfellows campaign. If anything is broken or feels broken, it's part of the
intentional.
design.
Yeah, it's 100%
It's
intentional.
part
Yeah.
of the design. Just accept it.
They planned it that way for sure.
If things are oddly late, it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Between these two, I mean, hey, with the state of the world right now, everything and anything is running behind. So I think you're safe on that front. But I do think you've put really some great attention to detail and thought throughout this campaign. Obviously, again, you both being very detail-oriented people, I'm not surprised by that. What was one part of this campaign you were kind of toying around with that you weren't sure if it was going to work when you were first going to it? Obviously, other than maybe the tuck box.
I'll let you go first, Lorenzo.
I don't know. I mean, something that we were afraid that it wouldn't work.
Yeah, either it wouldn't get the support that you expected, or that you couldn't. I mean, mechanically speaking, the deck is pretty straightforward, I think. But like from an art point of view, or from a style, or an approach, was there anything where you were nervous how people would react to it?
Actually, no.
I was like, come on, dude, this is Lorenzo and Alex.
No.
Come on, dude. Like,
No,
it's gonna work.
I know. I mean, you know what? I have. I noticed that it is a fun deck. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I can steal a smile from somebody just by showing this stupid monkey here, which actually was inspired by that monkey toy with the
Yeah.
like very scary toy, but yeah, the expression was like, and then you have some kind of like a reaction, which is a funny one. And I wasn't that worried about that, and because it's fun.
Yeah.
Also, the characters on the court cards, they do odd stuff to themselves. Yeah. They get hurt, but at the same time, they get hurt in like a stupid way, or they have like they're odd. Okay, that's the point. So it's a fun. I say funny or fun deck, both. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely would go with both. It's definitely a fun and a funny deck. And so one of the cool add-ons to this one too is you actually have a two-tone coin that's going along with this as well. Was that something you kind of knew you wanted to do from the jump, or is that something that developed throughout the design process?
The coin, that one was like to fill a little bit the add-on list in the beginning, because we have add-ons that we are going to release, but starting a project with no add-ons, it was a little bit weird. So we decided to start with the coin, which is a huge coin. And it's not like it's 2-inch, 5 centimeters.
Yeah, it's big.
And it's a double head. On the front, you have the monkey, on the back is the Uncle Tibia.
Nice.
Actually, I would like to say like a little spoiler alert for the Italian people, or I mean, a little explanation for you. Uncle Tibia was a show from the 90s about horror movies.
Okay.
In Italy only.
Okay.
And the name of there was this character, was like a skeleton with look, I don't remember very well, like a zombie skeleton with flesh, and he was presenting horror movies at prime time, basically, or a little later. I don't remember. It was Zio Tibia, so it became Uncle Tibia.
Nice.
And I took that one from the 90s.
Nice. And so with, talking about the coin there, what's one of your favorite, and we're not going to try and get you to reveal any of the add-ons here, but what's one of your favorite parts of the campaign that's either part of the deck or the tuck box, or what's really come together in a way that it's resonated with you? I know, Lorenzo, you kind of mentioned like the ingredients with the potions on the back and everything, but Alex, maybe we'll start with you on this one. What's your favorite part of this? Like, what really hits you and you're just like, wow, that's amazing?
I think I mentioned this before. I think just in general, the concept of having these entourage characters as the themes, I really enjoy. In a very straightforward, here's the face, here's someone you can like identify. Suddenly, it's like a BuzzFeed thing. Who's your favorite character? Versus like, and then it's like these are our decks that you could put on the shelf, and I think it will be very eye catching for your collector friends. So I think besides that, in general, I'm just happy with the response that it's gotten. I think I was a little trepidatious. I was like, all right, this is the first P52 deck, and it sort of and there's a bit of a hiccup of like what I was expecting people to want. So I thought this was going to be like in place of the National Playing Card deck. I'm still making that happen. Don't worry.
People will have your head if that was the case.
Yeah, I miscalculated. But yeah, so that'll be out. But for this, I think it was I was projecting based on what we were doing for research, like 130 for the full campaign. And when we broke 100 in the first, I don't know, what is it, 3 days? Something like that. I was like, okay, people are really feeling this. I'm very happy with how we're going. And then we sort of adjusted and added some fuel to the fire to make sure that people were really getting into it and that we could keep that momentum going. So,
yeah. And then I really dig the colors. They're definitely not your everyday colors that you see in a deck. Not even odd. They're super cool. Like how'd you come up with these colors? There's purple and this teal.
Yeah, well, I thought to use like unconventional colors for decks, and try those. I don't know to say complementary. Colors. Yeah, complementary colors to enhance the contrast. And I remember I was trying a lot with the palette. Then I saw teal, orange. In the beginning was teal, yellow, or so. In the older posts on my Instagram, you might have seen different colors, but then I chose for those like purple and light blue and teal and orange, and they are complementary in a way that give contrast and feel good. I don't know. good contrast.
Yeah,
And
they look great. And then obviously I feel like black is the the S17 color. Black and red, black and gold. That's like the
classic.
Stockholm 17 color.
Yeah, red and black is playing red, black and white are playing cards official colors.
Yeah.
I mean, look at everybody's logo. Red, black, and white.
Yeah. I just feel like that. Like whenever I see, a Lorenzo deck, I always in my head I'm like, okay, where's the black edition? Where's the black and red edition? Where's the black and gold edition? It's gotta be.
I think Sir Octo, we were originally looking at some pearlescent reds, and we reversed it because for a highlight foil, a black foil really doesn't read as a foil. It sort of reads like the white foil, in which it just sort of reads as a print and sort of removes some of that. So it's like, I think we settled on black because it's like, oh, squid ink. It's like cool, or octopus ink. But
yeah, no, that's great. That's cool. I really dig it.
No, I have to say, I absolutely love the style of it. And it's funny too, because I feel like when you first hear the name, if you don't see it, your first reaction is like, oh man, what's this going to be? Oddfellows. That's going to be weird. And you look at it and it doesn't disappoint there. It surely is weird, but in the best way possible.
Thanks. Gonna be weird fellows didn't sound really good.
I agree with you.
Strange fellows.
Strange Fellows may not have been terrible, but it's a little bit too close to like Strange Bedfellows. And then you have the whole idea of Weird Fellows just definitely doesn't vibe as well. So Oddfellows, I think, is a good one. And the funny thing is, there's an established hashtag for it because of the International Order of Oddfellows. So you gain a little bit of momentum with that as well. So there you go.
Yeah, I found out right before the campaign there is this kind of what is it, order of
it's like a fraternal order. Yeah.
You'll have to reach out to them and maybe they'll buy 10,000 of your decks.
So I feel like they would not be happy seeing themselves personified like this.
So when we posted today, you could tell like there's bots that are looking for Oddfellows, for International Order of Oddfellows, like hashtags, and they're liking it and like posting stuff on it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like all these bots. I'm like, yeah, whatever, engagement's engagement. But at the same time, I'm like, clearly we tapped into an unintentional hashtag there, and I loved it. So
great.
It's really interesting to look at the way you've gone with these die cuts. And I know we talked a little bit about the die cut earlier. Lorenzo, this seems to be something that you've been doing across several campaigns now. What got you into the idea of die cuts other than just being able to bring that color through? Is this something you're planning on incorporating into more decks in the future? Or is it something that you just kind of are experimenting with it right now?
Yeah, because it gives extra depth, and you on top on the embossing. So like if you travel, you get very small, and you travel on the top of the box. You have the embossing first, then basically the level of the paper, and then there is the embossing. So you already have 3 levels, and then if you have the die cut, the cut, you can go even deeper. Can go downstairs basically.
I love it.
And you end up on the cards, and then you can see through. And here, for example, you have the eyes popping from the cut. You see like a portion of the monkey.
Yeah.
For the depends by the card, but it's like peeking through. And I like the fact that it gives extra depth.
Yeah.
It adds kind of a little bit of like a horror vibe to it almost, with that monkey, like the eyes popping through the tuck there.
And also I can play, I did that for another one, for the club deck, if you saw. There are actually 2 cuts, double cut, so it goes even deeper. The club deck for 52 plus Joker. You saw that?
Yes. No, that was saw it, bought it.
So
Definitely
it's like
a beautiful one. Yeah.
course we
we can
bought
play
it.
with that. We can play with that, and it helps for gives extra depth and extra options in terms of graphic design. We can play with the graphics of the cards that you see through.
Yeah,
And so,
for
do you
sure.
find with a tuck that when you get into the multiple levels of embossing and the die cutting, that it impacts the structural integrity of the box at all? Do you end up having to go with a thicker paperweight, or is it really pretty much the same?
No, it's not. There is so little. As far as I'm far enough from the borders,
Okay.
and the machine doesn't mix. I mean, if the embossing is too close to the folding line, to the score line, the machine might fold the embossing
Okay.
line and have a crooked box. So as far as I have those safe margins,
Safety margins.
Yeah.
it's not embossing. It's not a big problem.
Right. Yeah. No, I think it's really cool because it's a whole new experience when you get creative and bring in these new design elements into playing cards, because we were talking about it the other day, and there's a lot of packaging ideas that can be utilized in playing cards that they use in, wine presentation or, just different. I know Alex is, well versed in, outside packaging stuff. But there's some really, really cool ideas that would be cool to see brought in more into the playing card community from that world.
Yeah, there is a lot in packaging design. There is a lot. The thing is that sometimes, often, for products, packaging is more expensive than the product itself.
Yeah, no, for
Yes.
sure, 100%.
Yeah, that's a slippery slope to go down there. I mean, it can quickly be you have a several dollar deck of cards in like a $20 box. And so, first off, I want to say, Alex, I think you've set a very high bar for the first Portfolio 52 deck of cards.
Yeah.
I think you're going to be hard pressed to beat it next year. But that being said, I have no doubt that if anyone could manage, it's going to be you. This is an amazing, amazing set here. And I think anyone who has not checked it out yet, you're missing out. The artwork is phenomenal. The attention to detail in every single one of these decks. Again, we were just talking about the die cut on the monkey deck, on the brass monkey deck, and you can see these little, I don't think I'm going to be able to get this to visually show here, but like if I can get this to like peek right there, you can see those little eyes popping out of the top die cut there. That level of attention to detail is shown on the entirety of this deck. So for anyone who's sitting there being like, oh, I don't know what all this entails, every little aspect of this has been thought out, planned, and so far from what we can see, beautifully, beautifully executed. The one question I do have, you've mentioned a couple times here, you went with EPCC, you're working with Bill on this. What made you decide to go with EPCC on this deck versus, Cardamundi or USPC or Legends?
I think the biggest thing is that Bill's a really nice guy that's willing to sort of make certain things happen. One is that we got prototypes of the box for photography.
Yeah.
That's not something a normal factory would be willing to go out of their way to do. And so I remember we were talking about this. So this project was supposed to go up actually earlier this year. And I think what happened is it wasn't really like set in stone, like acquisition yet. It was like, yeah, it's like sort of a handshake, whatever, but like nothing was like confirmed. And then finally when it went through and then we started setting things up, I was like talking with Lorenzo and it's just like, because I remember having to render stuff as well. And it's just like, do you want to deal with this rendering stuff? And he's just like, nah, it's a lot of work. It's like, yeah, it is a lot of work. It's like, what do you want to do about it? And it's just like, well, I mean, I can sort of do an ask and we can sort of see. I mean, luckily we did. And then with that, then we were able to get photography. We sent a set to Frank Kubin, who is an utterly phenomenal
amazing photographer.
Yeah. Love Frank to death.
He just wrapped up his 2022 calendar. Yeah.
I got a couple. I got to give them away. They're
Dude,
really nice.
Fun calendar, yeah.
Yeah, but I remember, I think we were finally starting to have them, and then all of a sudden, oh, that's what happened. then Lorenzo emails me back. It's like, oh, by the way, I'm going to Italy for a month, so I will see you in 30 days. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
But
it was the third vacation. It was like after the eye of the ocean. I was
The EU way, man. Like take months off.
He needed that relaxation after eye of the ocean, though. That's
and then we
completely
needed
understandable.
time to produce the prototypes, because I'm gonna pick something that, again, wait a second. Explains the struggle. No, wrong box. Give it a little patience. So I can show you, see if I can. From this angle, you see, oh, look, a box. Actually, it's not. It is. So I had to put on the table. I mean, this is a paper sample of a purple that is a little bit different from this one.
Right.
But actually, probably it's the same. No, it's a little different.
Pretty close.
Yeah. So to make a rendering, this is a shimmering paper, pearlized, that reflects the light in a way that it's specific. Okay, so I had to put on the table at a specific angle this thing here, in a way like this. So it looks like, camera here, actually here, and take a picture and work with only what you see. It looks like a box. I had to cut smaller cards because this is not the regular size. This is a pocket size.
Yeah.
So I had to shrink down the cards to take a pictures together and make renderings, but it takes ages. And I mean,
You're on mute, Ty. You're on mute, Ty.
That just blows my mind, the amount of effort that Lorenzo put into just being able to build out a render and building out these little, like, for all intents and purposes, gimmicks that will never see the light of day other than the build out of this project. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's important to, as I said, have mock-ups on your table and try, so you get an idea. Renderings are difficult and takes a lot of time.
Without a doubt. And honestly, a lot of times too, and Steve and I are always big advocates of prototypes for just double checking what you have there too. You can do a render perfectly, and then when you print something in your print files, it could be off a little bit, or you could have a pip or an indices that's wrong, and it just causes issues. So being able to physically see something really allows you to go above and beyond on that checking,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it allows you to riffle through it and see where the lineups are and different things like that, and the colors too. You can see if there's color. I mean, obviously in prototypes, colors are going to be different than what they're going to print out from the manufacturer anyway. But at least you could see, if one of your pip is a different font. We've seen that in actually some decks that are printed.
Production decks.
Production decks that are printed, and it's like, this font is clearly different than this one.
Not subtle at all.
If you had a prototype, you probably would see that, rather than looking on.
That's the point. That's the point of having a prototype, because you spot all the mistakes at once. On screen, it's hard.
Yeah.
Too many files. It's like everything is flat. When you have it in your hands, you can really spot.
Well, I can only imagine too, staring at a computer screen, designing it for all those hours, what you see probably just becomes second nature to you. And so even if you're looking at it, trying to scrutinize it for errors, because you've been looking at it for hours, you're still going to overlook things. Whereas, like you said, that physical hands-on approach really allows you to get a different perspective.
Yeah. And when you're proofing the digital files from the manufacturer, it's not the easiest process either.
No.
You're looking at it and you're just looking at your artwork again. It's like, cool.
You need some fresh eyes. You need to do it.
Yeah.
I always sleep on it and then just come back into it. And then you just triple check. You count every single pip, You double check every single indice, and it's just like, it's tedious, but it's just like, if you miss that one, the consequence is just so high.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen decks in the past where it's like you miss one card and then you have to go back and print a whole run of nothing but that card. And because a lot of these print minimums, it's not like you're going and being like, hey, I need to print 12 decks to fulfill everyone's back order. No, you're printing another minimum run of either the full decks or just the extra card. It's a bummer, but like making sure you plan it all out. And again, for you guys being so detail oriented and so planned out, I feel like that would be even more crushing for you than anyone else. So
yeah, it's not nice.
Yeah.
But mistake happens sometimes, and I mean, there is always a way to adjust.
Yeah.
Well, and again, though, remember, this is the Odd Fellows. It's not a mistake.
Exactly.
It's a planned anomaly.
It's a feature.
You just haven't figured out what it means yet. That's what it is.
If there's any errors, they're supposed to be there.
Yep. You just found the starting point for a secret puzzle nobody knows about.
not in this one, but if you get 53 cards, it's supposed to be.
If you get 52 and a half, it's supposed to be.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it, man. Well, I am really excited for this campaign. Honestly, you guys are crushing it. 15 days left on the campaign. If there's anybody out there who's on the fence, what's one thing you would tell them right now to try and get them on board with this?
Alex.
So I think if you're, it depends on what kind of collector you are. I think in terms of collectors that want a little piece of history, this is the first Portfolio 52 deck. I mean, enough said. Just like, it's something that over time, people are going to want to get the first one. So might as well get it on the ground floor. If you're looking for something on display, these are cards that are really fun, that are relatively inviting for people that aren't card collectors. So when you have these on the shelves and you do want to interact more with people and try to get their interest, this is another deck that I think also fits that bill. And I think for those that like the collective aspect and these interactive campaigns, from what I'm seeing out there right now, I can pretty confidently say you're going to have the most fun on this one.
Nice.
So pick your
poison
soundbite that you want to use.
So it's interesting too. We've gotten a lot of people kind of guesstimating at potential add-ons, things like that, or even throwing their kind of recommendations in the ring. One of the big ones we've seen, and I feel like this is catching momentum again, is the idea of mini decks. You don't have to confirm or deny anything, but any vibe towards mini decks on this campaign.
That sounds like a good idea.
I'm
don't
not
know. We'll sort of see what happens. Yeah.
A poker face.
Poker face doesn't mean you hide it behind a deck of cards.
Exactly.
That's called peekaboo.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. I mean, I think it's always fun because I think mini decks always come out of the blue sometimes. Lorenzo, you've done some amazing minis before. It would be fun to see. I mean, I think people are in for a real treat with this campaign, more so than they've already been in for this far. For anyone who hasn't gone for the oddest fellow tier, I still think there's a lot of opportunity to get some great decks out of this. I'm excited for this, guys. I know you're excited for this. Alex, you got to be super excited for this. Lorenzo, I feel like you're always excited. I feel like you just love. I feel like you always love throwing up campaigns and having fun with it, man. And I think that's one of the best things about having you both on here. It's always a fun time. Just for anyone who doesn't know, literally, like I said, Lorenzo coming on here wanting to be the one in costume. He's always a blast. Alex has also offered to be on costume in the past as well.
It'll happen in the future.
It'll happen eventually.
It'll happen in the future.
Eventually.
So for anyone who's out there being like, oh, these guys are detail-oriented, super plan-oriented, you can be that and also be an odd fellow as well. So have no doubt about it. These are two of our favorite people in the community. And honestly, this campaign is doing amazing things. If you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend you check it out. We want to grab a couple last minute questions here. If anyone has anything else in the audience.
And if you're not on Portfolio 52 yet, be sure to head over there and sign up.
Oh yeah. Go Portfolio 52. Do that.
Oh my God. I love it. Alex, where were you on that one?
He's like, what?
I don't know.
Oh yeah.
It's a tool that it'll eventually get everyone. Anyone that's serious about collecting always
Yeah,
ends
I mean,
up
it's
there.
great.
I don't need to market it.
There you go.
And
There you go.
also, if you play, I mean, I made huge indexes. You see how big they are.
I love the indexes on this. I am not a jumbo indices person, and I love these indices. They look
And
gorgeous.
speaking of details, every pip has its own little illustration.
Yeah.
Nice.
Terrible light, but I had to draw 243 or something, like each one monochromatic illustration, one for each pip.
That's a
So
lot.
because it was fun, So what do I draw now?
365 pips, right?
I don't remember the right number. 200 and something.
365, isn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah, there's
I
365 pips in a deck of cards.
If
We
you
just saw
count
that the
also-
other
Oh, are
day
you,
on
are you
something.
counting
But
the indices though?
I don't know if the indices count, actually.
yeah, so we
Oh,
saw something the other day that mentioned there are 365, but I don't know if that's true or not. So we'd have
It's
to
totally
see.
true.
It's
I mean,
348 on 2 to 10. So it's got to be
written
more.
on the campaign page. Find out.
Yeah, so it's definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely got to be
pips.
more because if there's 348 on just the 2 to
There's-
10,
That's
you have
a
another
220.
348 from 2 to 10.
Yeah, it says 348 from 2 to 10.
And the weird.
And then you'd
Who's
have
getting
2
this?
per court, so that's another 32.
But those are not. They don't have the mini illustration. It's just on the
Okay.
number cards.
Okay.
But yeah, it's like 240 something.
And so that's a large portion of the deck has miniature illustration in the pips. That's
Yeah.
intense.
It was
Man.
fun to draw them, and I don't
It's
know.
really good you like to draw.
Yeah, that's what I do.
I mean, I sitting there, I'd get through 3. I'd be like, on to the next thing.
No, those are those kind of ideas. That are, let's make each pip a different illustration, and then you start drawing on that. It's like, oh, it never ends.
And then you're on 13 and you still think it's a good idea. Then you're on 96 and you're like, why did I think of this
Yeah,
idea?
it starts
Then you're
easy.
on
2 of spades. Oh, that's easy. 2 of them. Then you're at 10 of spades. Oh shit.
So we had a question come in from Erica here. Erica wanted to know, were there any rejected Oddfellows characters?
No,
I don't think so.
not
Okay.
yet.
We rejected some
Actually,
color palettes, but-
yeah, actually yes, but not that you know of.
All right. Just wasn't odd enough? All right. Fair enough.
No, it has been it evolved, but you will see later.
Alright.
I can.
So we'll definitely have to keep an eye out for that one then.
Yes.
Any little hints about what to expect from Havoc Reek here?
Well, the poker face of
That's
mine
what
was
the image
already
is for.
explanatory.
That's what the Oddest Fellow tier image is for. It has sizable question marks and anticipation and
Yes.
adjectives that actually do matter.
You gotta
So-
wait for the surprise.
Any ballpark on how many decks of cards will be issued?
You gotta wait for the surprise.
I mean, like print run, I'm assuming, not like how many decks are going to be in the
Oh,
campaign. Yeah.
variants.
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess.
However many sell?
I'm gonna guess probably a run of 3,000 for the
Okay.
standard.
Nice.
And I have trouble guessing Sir Octo. I'm just round about 1,000 for now. I don't know.
All right.
I don't know. These are just really standard numbers that are probably unsatisfying to anyone. But I mean, it's just
It's
like
hard
I
to
haven't
tell
actually
at such
looked
an
at it.
early phase of the
No,
campaign.
Yeah.
But Sir Octo is an exclusive Kickstarter exclusive, so only those ordered via Kickstarter
Yeah.
are printed. They always print a little extra as buffer for safety reason, shipping problems, and a little bit of private reserve, like a couple of bricks. But it's not that we overproduce.
Right.
That's the number, and that's the order. Correct?
Exciting. That's exciting.
Yeah, no, so it's a piece that I think we want to reward people for actually being there. I know we had a bit of a hiccup where people were like, well, our early bird tier, I don't want to give it up, but they're saying the trifecta is the exact same. So I feel like I didn't even need to be here. And it's like, I'm sorry we gave you too much savings. Like we had to do a lot of checking and we just sort of like hit a little brain fart. But yeah, no, I think right now we sort of know what is bugged out on Kickstarter, what we can do.
Nice.
We have a basically layout of what we're expecting. There might be a couple of things we might pop in last minute, but in general, it's pretty much out there on the odometer or the odometer. And we can you guys can sort of guess based on the shapes of what we've done for the image and for all those adjectives.
Very nice.
I think that'll address most of your questions.
Very nice.
But
well, I gotta say, it's been an absolute pleasure having you guys on here, chatting about the Oddfellows deck, giving us a little bit of a behind-the-scenes insight into everything about this deck. I think everyone who is currently backing and planning on backing, you're really in for a treat, especially as more things develop with this. So if you have not checked it out already, make sure to head over to Kickstarter. The link is in the description below. Also, while you're at it, make sure to check out Portfolio52. Make sure to give Alex and Portfolio52 a follow on Instagram as well for all of the fun updates. I'm super pumped for this one, guys. I think you've blown us all out of the water with this one, no question about it, especially because I didn't know what to expect. I was really on the fence at the beginning, and once I saw this thing launch, I was like, damn, this is amazing. So
I'm
very nicely done.
Thrilled that you guys had us on. And
You're always invited on.
I'm happy that it's gone as well as we did, because I was looking at it, and I think the thing about campaign strategy is just you always have it, and you lay it out, and you sort of do your projections, your calculations, you pump your numbers. At the end of the day, you just have to all right, let's just try it. Let's just, and I think,
it's a lot of trial and error.
This Oddest Fellow strategy really played off pretty well.
Yeah, I like releases rather than stretch goals, because they're so hard to predict that, I mean, if you go through all the stretch goals on day 2, you don't have time and space to work for the rest. I mean, it's good to have releases and have scheduled released campaign, if I can say that.
Yeah. You can say whatever you want.
Sense. If it makes sense. No,
that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah. Sometimes
I think the stretch goal release makes sense based on a monetary aspect, but at a certain threshold, it just makes sense to transition to timed releases.
Yeah, because you can't. I mean, even if you do lower tiered stretch or lower monetary value stretch goals, at some point or another, you also can't continue to grow them to the point where you're going to be like, oh, what's your next stretch goal? $250,000, $500,000. To some extent, it gets to be too excessive without it really having that driving factor. So no, I think you guys did a great approach with this. Obviously, everyone out there is loving it so far. It's keeping people engaged, which I think is one of the hardest things for a campaign, because like you said, a lot of times people set it and forget it, or hit the save and come back 2 days before it ends. This really gives them that engaged feeling. It's exciting.
Yeah, I'm thrilled with the response, because I think the biggest thing that might not be as prevalent unless you really look at it. It's just that every single tier and campaign, while it's been thought out, was meant in a way that doesn't apply pressure to the backer. And I think you'll see a lot of that in recent months, especially among foreign Kickstarters that almost treat Kickstarter like a pre-sale. They will do timed releases. And they're only available for certain windows with these limited tier slots.
Right.
I didn't see any of that really until I did the Elixir campaign back in the day.
Yeah.
That was the 5th campaign. And that one, because that was sort of just a small one shot, that one, this tier sold out in super quick. And then people start getting really, really angry, because this is the first time it happened. But then everyone started doing that, and I was like, oh no, this is not a good cultural change. So I really felt bad about that, and I was like, well, running this campaign, I really want to make sure that no one at any given point feels pressure to spend money or anything like that. But at the same time, we have this Oddest Fellow reward, which is just like, if you want it, you can have it. There's no limit on it, but it guarantees that you will be part of the journey with us.
Yeah, right. It removes the pressure, which I think is great. Yeah, I really do think it's great.
You still have the anticipation and the fun of like almost your advent calendar style. Stay with us to 25 days instead of the 30 days.
And I'm guessing anyone who backs that tier,
running this for 30 days is too long.
Running it for 15 days is stressful. Anything over 2 weeks on Kickstarter starts to eat at your psyche a little bit. But no, and I think, you know what? Knowing the two of you, I have no doubt that everyone who backs that Oddest Fellow tier is going to be more than thrilled with what they end up with.
For sure.
Yeah, totally.
So.
We have a plan.
Don't say it, Lorenzo.
You probably have 2 plans. So
plan.
He said he has a plant, and it's behind Alan.
There you go. The plan is hidden in the pumpkin. If anyone wants to go find it. Well, guys, again, thank you so much for coming on, for taking the time to really give us the behind-the-scenes inspiration of the Oddfellows deck and walking us through this journey. It's been an absolute pleasure. Again, for anyone out there, make sure to go back this campaign ASAP. If you are on the fence at all, at least click the save button there and come back to it because you are not going to want to miss out on this one. Absolutely loving this thing. Thank you so much, both of you.
We appreciate you guys. We love you guys as well. Peace out.
Peace.
Thank you.